Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Frame Rate, the podcast where we rate frames. It's a weak pun, but we're sticking with it.
Yeah, we're running with it.
This is now one of our most popular shows, so I guess that name is stuck. I'm Michael Swain.
I'm Abe Epperson.
And joining us today in the third seat is a very special guest who has not graced the Small Beans feed before. Very happy to have him. Please introduce yourself, sir. I asked him while he took a sip of water. Perfect.
It's all good. I'm a professional. I can take it and talk. What's up, guys? Jacquis here. Jacquis Neal. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for
Welcome.
coming, Jacquis. And yeah, I don't need to tell you. You came in and you adjusted the mic immediately. I like that you already have the instinct of everyone should hear what I say all
Everybody,
the time.
you gotta hear what I gotta say. Yeah. I'm excited to talk about this movie.
Tip it. Go ahead.
This
What's
movie.
our movie?
Yeah, what movie we talking about?
Little Shop of Horrors, right?
Yeah, and we usually kick it off by asking, because the process is we sent a huge list of movies and you picked from the list. Mm-hmm. So why did this one call out to you? Why Little Shop?
So I'm an actor from Chicago, so I grew up in theater. Mm-hmm. And the second play I had ever done was Little Shop of Horrors.
Damn.
It was, I did my first play, loved it, really enjoyed it. And it was in high school. Mm-hmm. And the musical, the spring musical or the fall musical, whatever, was the next show. I was like, I'll audition for this. I got in it and just fell in love with doing what I do.
Which role?
In that show, I was Mr. Mushnick.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And we should be clear, we're covering the 1986 Rick Moranis.
We're covering the movie.
Not the 1960.
The 1961 was... Jack Nicholson was in that one.
Yes, he was.
So I was reading... It's
has
actually
a different name, right?
It's fairly confusing, yeah.
It's not a musical. The first one.
The first one is like a shitty B sci-fi movie, right?
Yeah. And
then it was a musical, and then it was a movie of the musical? Okay.
There's like a pretty well-torn tradition of that, like Bat Boy...
Sure.
And stuff like that. Like they take serious topics or take something that was a legitimate documentary and then turn it into an absolute
mocking
nonsense.
The foolishness of our ancestors.
Yeah,
look how dumb they were.
As
30
comedies
years
and
ago.
musicals should do. It's for clowns.
It's pretty crazy. Like when you actually trace it back. So they made it a musical first, and then the movie. So obviously when you're in a musical, you go watch the movie, if there is a movie of it. And then I also directed the musical a few years later. So it's just something I love. I'll just get this right off the bat. Even though the movie is fun, in comparison, I hate the movie. In comparison to the actual play.
Oh, really?
Yeah. As a standalone thing, the movie is fun. But when you compare it to the stage play, they're different. They end differently.
And I know that was because the test audiences reacted so poorly to the ending.
They hated it.
So I mean, I don't know. The studio system fucks us all.
Yeah,
Casablanca got changed several times. It happens.
Right.
But so I haven't seen the play ever. I was also all about high school theater and into college, but never came across Little Shop.
That's
my
crazy.
second show was Hair, and everyone had to get naked, so I would have rather
did
done
you guys
Little
really
Shop.
get naked?
We did all really get naked, yeah.
Damn,
and
in
now
high school?
in retrospect, senior year, I'm like, why was the teacher allowed to have this pedophile fodder?
Yeah.
I bet there were some non-parents coming to that show.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a tale from another time.
That's insane, man.
But I know it's like serious, or just explain
the differences.
What are the differences?
Yeah, so they're both not serious. They're both still very campy. And look, I say when I say hate, I don't mean that in a content way. I wish that it was preferred. Yeah, the preference is the stage musical. I think the stage musical has better songs. The songs are they have more songs. Like Mr. Mushnick, for instance, has 3 songs in the musical. He has 0 in the movie.
No,
Yeah, I don't think he has any in the movie, does he? Or he probably sings a song.
He's a group. They're as a group at one point.
There's a lot of sing talking in the movie. Yeah, so there's the thing where he's like, "I saw you chopping him up."
Yeah, no,
but that's it.
He has his own, like he has his
Leading
own song.
into supper time.
It's like Mushnick and Sons, because he adopts Seymour in the musical.
Is he such a dick in the musical?
He's the same.
Okay,
he's more. He's a bigger character in the musical.
Right.
So
he did adopt him to like exploit his labor.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly. One of my favorite songs in the musical is not in the show, in the movie. The Meek Shall Inherit it's very short in the movie, but in the musical, it's a really long, drawn out song that really takes you through, like how the greed is affecting Seymour.
And is it a Seymour song?
It's a Seymour song with ensemble.
Okay.
The one difference, and but whatever. What's her name? Audrey has another song as well. And obviously the biggest difference is in the stage musical, everybody dies. Mm-hmm. And in the movie, that was the original ending.
I saw that is the version I like, and that's the version.
Oh, you like the Everybody Dies ending?
I somehow stumbled, like my parents somehow stumbled on the VHS. I don't know. I think it's like someone knew someone, and we got a copy of it.
Got a copy.
So
of the
that's the
original.
one I grew up with.
Oh, really?
And it's spectacular because he eats Seymour. Mm-hmm. And then in addition to that, it's an elaborate taking over of the earth, knocking over buildings. You can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, they take over the entire planet. In the theater, most theaters will generally have plant arms and shit drop down from the ceiling because he eats the theater.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I'm sorry, because I was thinking you mean in theatrical production
and stage plays.
There's a nod to that
because they used to in the 50s and 60s do blast smells into the movie theater. And
they do something very close in the film. Actually, what they do is they start slowly fading it to so you don't notice that it looks clearly like it's a projection. Yeah. More than most 35 millimeter cinema does. And then at the end, Seymour rips through the end card. And it's flickering, so it's supposed to look like projector lights, as if Seymour is now inside your theater, taking over you here now. It would be effective 3D tactic, but it didn't exist in.
Well, that might have been because I thought it was interesting in the trivia. Frank Oz's theory, who the director, also voice of Fozzie Bear, and I think I agree, is that in the theatrical production, there's immediately a curtain call. So you're like, the actors didn't really die. Yeah. And people are so stupid that they're like, but this is a movie. These characters really did die. Therefore, I'm sad. I don't like this ending. And maybe that projector thing was an attempt to try to seem it where it's like, remember, you fucking assholes, it's a movie.
It's a movie.
It's just Rick Moranis is fine, okay?
Yeah.
Well, Frank Oz...
But people were still smashing the down button.
Frank Oz said very publicly about the ending, he thinks that the reason it didn't succeed... No, he felt, along with the producer, they both felt they took it to test audiences. They got a really low score. They got you're supposed to get they ask a question at most test screenings, which is would you is this something you'd be fine, or you find it very weird if it was in theaters right now? Mm-hmm. And as long as you
seem like the kind of thing you'd see in theaters?
And if you get lower than a 55 out of 100, I think it's
they go, oh shit.
You go fuck. Yeah. And this got an 11.
Yeah. in an actual stage play, the people you are watching are right there. So it generally, when somebody dies, they're dying right in front of you, so to say. Like my little brother at the time, when the first time I was in Little Shop, he was between 5 and 10. I don't remember. I should remember, but I don't. And he cried when I got eaten by the plant because he was like, oh no, he's just died on stage. Yeah. So he cried when I got eaten by the plant.
He decided to put on different clothes and died in front of me.
But the here I think this is the biggest reason why the movie bothers me. Even though I love that they expanded on the dentist role. The dentist role is not as big in the musical.
But there is a scene with a masochistic customer, right? Patient?
No, that's
okay.
Christopher Guest. That was all just to get Christopher Guest.
No, that was Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. That's right. That's not in the musical.
Okay, that's what I was wondering because I read this whole loop about Nicholson was original or someone, and it was I don't know. Anyway, go on.
So you get the dentist song, which Steve Martin does, but then you get a dentist song when he dies as well, which I don't think is in the actual movie.
No.
I can't remember. But his part is bigger, like because you got Steve Martin, you got to use him.
I mean,
and Bill Murray famously, no single line once he's in the dentist chair was scripted.
Yeah,
it's entirely like just Judd Apatow.
The
editor had to make something work, and I think it really works.
Oh, it works. It's so fun.
He's so funny.
Personally, and I'm sure I'll get shit for this, but I think this is my favorite Steve Martin performance in anything ever. And
really,
it's up there with The Jerk or Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Where I think Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is a more beloved film to my heart. But he's just being annoyed Steve Martin in that. This was the only time where I feel like I saw more, because he used to do avant-garde shit on stage.
Right.
I don't know, personally, I think the King Tut song's boring and stupid.
Sure.
But his thing was, he was more of a Robin Williams where he'd do really extreme characters and voices.
Yeah.
And I think this is the only movie, or outside of The Jerk, where he immediately, I feel like, capitalized on, I'm famous enough to just be myself in movies, and that's fine with me.
I think
But this is still earlier in his career. He's making crazy choices.
He's making choices.
He contributed punching the nurse in the face. They weren't going to do
twice. Yeah.
And I know this wasn't his choice, but when his motorcycle literally flies in from the sky to land in a scene, I just love that shit.
It's also because look at the things he does, when he gets off his motorcycle and then he hip thrusts, and it stops and stuff like that. All that real he thinks he's the coolest guy. That's because the tone of the movie is that. So it's just a really good fit for that aspect of Steve Martin that we don't usually see.
Yeah, you don't get to see that from Steve.
In films, you don't usually get him going play it. It's big. It's crazy Jim Carrey levels.
And we have the benefit of watching this film after a large body of work of his.
Right.
Which is fun to just go back and place it and say. Yeah. But I can only imagine what it was like when he actually did it. I wonder if they, because he's an abusive boyfriend in this, which I know is something that's a very common trope in movies, but
and they very quickly go out of their way to be like, don't worry, he's gonna die because of that. It balances out. Yeah.
But it's something that's one thing too, that generally Steve Martin plays good guys. Yeah. Generally. And so this is one film where he's not only an asshole, he's an abusive woman beating asshole. So it's pretty crazy.
His death, when I saw it as a kid, was actually pretty disturbing to me, more than I was ready for from this movie.
Yeah.
I forget what age, but because he dies like you die from the Joker gas in Batman.
Yeah.
He's he suffocates on nitrous, so he dies with a rictus grin on his face. That's the connection. The tools in the dentist's office he used on Bill Murray are the same tools used in Batman, the Keaton Batman.
Oh, really?
On the Joker,
that's
played by Jack
funny.
Nicholson, who's in the original B movie version.
That's so cool.
Everything's just recycled.
I really hate growing up. Watching this movie, I hated that sequence. I love Steve Martin, and I loved his performance, and I couldn't have enough of it. But I'd almost fast forward as a little kid. It with we had one
when
of
he's
those,
choking to death and laughing.
When he's just going to town on different people, the sound design and everything. It's just. You hate the dentist, and the
it makes you hate it even more.
Yeah. Even to that, or even when I watched it last, I was just kind of turned it down a little bit because I just didn't want to hear the drill and stuff.
The kid they get to scream in the beginning of the dentist song in this movie, though, has the best scream. Do you know the kid?
That
little red-haired kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
He is the dentist. When I first auditioned for the play, the dentist is the role I wanted because it's the fun role. You're all right. If I'm not going to be Seymour, I either want to be the plan or the dentist, right? Yeah. Because also in the musical, and this is a trope that every stage production, not every, but every professional stage production has of Little Shop. The dentist plays every other role in the show. So it's only a 5-person. It's the 3 doo-wop girls, the plant, Audrey,
and then
Seymour, Mr. Mushnick, and the dentist plays the other 7 characters in the stage play.
Oh, okay.
Those are the characters.
Is Wink Winkleson in it or whatever his name is?
Yeah, at the end. So you get the first customer in the beginning, and then all the characters at the end.
Gotcha.
That this same character plays,
so
including
that
like the
fun,
woman.
yeah.
Which is pretty crazy. So that's something that they take out, obviously, because it's a movie. You get to have a whole bunch of people.
I can't remember. Does the stage version have an explanation of why everyone's so batshit loony about these goddamn plants, or is it just taken as like just tonally like it's fine? Everyone just loves them?
I think it's taken as it's just such a beauty. It doesn't have an explanation as far as why everybody's crazy about it.
They're doing psychological like
even
alien
in the movie.
shit or
It's
something.
unclear whether it's like emitting spores that are mind control,
or
it's just such an impressive plant that people are genuinely
Well,
interested
here's
in
the
it.
thing.
Gotta
Here's the thing. Here's the real reason why I really prefer, and I think the movie does the actual story disjustice, is because you have that question. So it actually does answer that question in the stage play. You have that question when you watch the movie. But in the stage play, when everybody dies, and then the final song, the finale, which is not in the movie, obviously.
It's
but
not Big Bad Mother from Outer Space.
Yeah, which is such a bad song. I hate that song.
It's a weak climax
It's so
song.
weak, and it sounds so
Even
forced.
as a kid, I felt that way. Yeah.
But in the musical, the stage play, the finale is beautiful, and the message of it is, you don't want to get everything you want. Essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like if you get everything you
Seymour,
want,
yeah.
is bad. Greed is bad.
Yeah,
no
yeah.
matter how you get it.
Overreaching.
Yeah. So I think what the thing is once people start seeing Audrey 2 and 1 and Audrey 2s, the message was, oh, he's just giving everybody what they want. So everybody loves it because you're getting what you want from this plan, right?
Yeah.
And in the movie, it doesn't. When you rip the rug and everybody lives, it's just like, all right, so why did everybody like the plant?
It's really funny to me that test audiences are essentially saying, I reject that message.
Yeah.
I want you to give me what I want in terms of giving Seymour what he wants.
Exactly.
Like, shut up. Just give us what we want.
Just give us what we want. Give him what he wants.
Trust us. We'll be fine.
He gets the happy ending.
Yeah, very similar to the track of another movie I hope we eventually get to, Brazil, where the test audiences were like, I know it's a satire about how society is completely fucked, but does it have to be sad at the end?
Yeah.
And they caved and changed it to this weird happy ending. And as a kid, you don't notice, but like watching this last night for this show, I was applying my more, adult analytical brain. And it is weird. They have to stretch so far to make Seymour a protagonist where at the end you go, yeah, I guess I'm happy that he gets the girl and the escapes in the house. But if you track his actions, it's like...
He's a terrible person.
He's a terrible person.
He's a terrible person.
Because even if you're going with movie logic, which I don't, but they do, all movies do this, you hit your girlfriend. We don't know all the details, but that means you deserve to die. The end. I don't care if you were abused growing up or you had a drug problem. All we know is you hit Audrey, die. Fine, I accept that. What I don't accept is Mushkin, the guy who raised him.
Yeah.
He basically lets him die through intentional negligence, 100% knowing me standing here still for 10 seconds is going to murder this man who I know very well. I decide to let this happen.
Yeah.
And then just because he didn't shoot him in the face, you're supposed to be like, I don't know, he didn't really kill anyone. The plane. No, Seymour fucking killed Mr. Mushkin.
Yeah.
And so then it is really bizarre to me when the movie's like, how do we get out of this? They kiss, cut to a happy home, get the fuck out. Let's get out of the movie.
It's such a weak ending to everything that was set up.
Yeah, and then they have a little Seymour 2 plant.
Yeah,
so
it's like the wink wink.
It's almost
horror
like
wink,
the
yeah.
villain wins, gets what he wants, and that's it's like a Faustian kind of thing, but there's no comeuppance,
Right.
It's very weird, man. And in the musical, Mr. Motionegga is much more of a manipulative asshole.
It's the monkey's paw story, but if you could take the monkey's paw and like threaten it and be like, no consequences though.
I mean, it's Gremlins. Yeah, it's an old.
I will say
shop is
this:
involved.
the cast of the movie is fantastic.
Okay, I wanted to pivot.
Yeah, it is. Like everything I'm saying, I don't like about the movie. And I like the movie. I want to be clear about that. I like the movie. But the things that I'm saying that bother me about the movie in comparison, the cast has nothing to do with that. The cast was fucking fantastic.
Ellen Green
beautiful
blows me away.
She has a voice.
I do.
Yeah,
I also, like, every night I pray that Rick Moranis will one day, like, the return will happen.
Yeah.
But and not in the form of... Have you heard his country albums that he's making?
No.
They're not... Make movies, Rick Moranis. But anyway, he's great at what he does, being a comedic actor. But in the things where Ellen Green and he sing together, you're like, to quote Sesame Street, one of these things is not like the other. And but it really just, I would say, like peanut butter on a hot dog. It shows.
Nope.
It shows the separation, like, and it makes me just in awe of Ellen Green's actual skill as a fully trained Broadway professional singer.
Yeah.
There's certain lines and notes she hits, and not just the vocal control to do it, but the choice. She makes creative choices of what to do with the quality of her voice in every line. Amazing.
They were thinking about Cyndi Lauper and Madonna were considered, and
Madonna would have been a bad choice.
I think both would be a bad choice because I think she's the only one that came from the direct off-Broadway, like show that caused this to be like, we should make this to the movie, right?
She knew
she's the only one from the original cast.
She was, I mean, like, the one thing that I love is her voice is so grating. And like her actual speaking voice as Audrey is so grating and annoying that when she flips and she just starts belting and blowing, it's like, oh goddamn.
That suddenly Seymour, she like goes into the upper register and she like kind of loses that raspiness.
Like,
and it's just like, damn.
Yeah. Like,
so I got a black guy, but suddenly Seymour. It's amazing.
It's so amazing.
You're like, and the restraints where you're like, you can sing like that the whole time, but you only bust it out a little bit at a time.
Yeah. Just everything about the doo-wop girls, the fact that they're, as Tisha Campbell and
from Martin, right?
Martin,
the girl from
Tichina
Martin.
Arnold. Both of them are from Martin.
Oh, okay.
Pam and Gina.
They're
both from Martin, which is so... I love that.
They're named after 3 different doo-wop groups, which I had to look up. I didn't know, like the Chiffons, the Crystals, and Ronettes.
It's so funny to me because you and I have such different tastes. Because I've never... Musicals have never worked on me.
Yeah.
I don't... There's something that I don't like about characters saying what they feel about things directly to people.
How does that make you feel? Tell me directly.
It makes me angry. Okay, good. But yeah, so the things that when I watched this movie, my experience was much different. I think we both agree that it's not the best thing in the world, but like the reason that I like applaud it, if I'm doing any applauding, is not because I think that the story is amazing. I've seen the story. I grew up with it. I really liked it as a kid. I think I was more open to musicals than I am now. Maybe that's just me being an asshole or whatever. But this is such a sleeper, like tech like aspect of movie
Finally,
making.
can we talk about puppets at long last?
It's so good at the tech. The choreography is of a different age that they don't choreograph movies like this anymore.
Yeah.
That has gone completely to the stage.
Is choreographed
and it's beautiful.
It's a stage production.
Yeah, because it's literally a stage production. It was shot in England and Pinewood, where they shot 007 stuff.
Which at that time was the largest indoor set
in fact,
on the face of the earth.
It still exists. There was like a fire that happened that was pretty big. The Game of Thrones rebuilt it.
Oh.
All of Rome from HBO was shot on it.
Oh, really?
But yeah, they built it because they were like 007. We need to make all of 007 and stage stuff, and
Yeah.
they used all of it. And at one point in this movie, for the finale bit where it's like it like is the big sweeping shots, and because it wasn't heated, they had to put. Did you read this? They had to put ice cubes in all of the actors and dancers' mouths so they
Oh.
wouldn't have. They would
Breath.
Yeah,
I've had to do
you
that
wouldn't
for a
see that,
commercial,
yeah.
and it
Oh,
was
so they
awful.
wouldn't
Yeah, it's
have
awful.
breath.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you cool
Right.
it down.
You
so
cool
it's
your
not-
mouth down so you
yeah.
don't see the breath. I had to do that
Jesus.
for a commercial I
it's a-
shot in Chicago during winter that was supposed to be
Oh my
set in
God.
California for whatever reason.
Yep.
And I had speaking lines outside.
And they tried
so
to
it was
shoot it outdoors. It's
we
like,
had to
why?
shoot
Yeah.
one little section outdoors. It was so for an hour I had to eat ice chips because I
Yep.
was talking in 15-degree weather outside.
And you just need to make.
And
your
the shot
whole-
is taking a big bite of a fish sandwich.
right.
Times.
Yeah.
The shot is going into a tour bus. It was ridiculous.
But yeah, it is. It's really impressive. All aspects
Yes.
of that: the stage, the choreography, and the puppetry.
Right. I doubt the stage production has a giant puppet of the inside of someone's mouth to make a shot work. Am I correct about
Right.
that?
Say that again.
Well, in the dentist sequence, they
Oh.
built a puppet
Yeah.
that's a singing, fully articulated tongue, teeth, and lips,
Yeah,
and like
no, that's
a
not-
Tonsil.
They used
Yeah.
a forced perspective prop so that Steve Martin could reach in with a drill, and it looks like this weird and like Jim Henson's son also worked on this, but going in knowing that the creative team is a creative team that did stuff like Sesame Street, Muppets, and
Right.
Dark Crystal, it becomes so much clearer what's going on because
Yeah.
like a lot of the shots feel like Sesame Street shots. I did notice an Oscar the Grouch reference this time, which I didn't before. In the Skid Row song, there's a homeless dude in a green jacket only waist up in a trash can.
Yeah,
and
it's
you're like,
Oscar the
that's
Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch, which
Yeah.
made me realize
It's a lot of fun little things like that throughout
Yeah.
the movie. That not only it pays homage to the 50s movie or the 50s and 60s movie, the stage production, and
Yeah.
Jim Henson's world just in general.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
also just weird to me to know that this same team, like, because Sesame Street sort of actually made like a brick walk-up neighborhood in New York accessible to kids. That was one of the things it did by being like, yeah, it's this bustling like hive of activity. The neighbors are nice. You learn shit. And even things like Oscar the Grouch were like, you might see a homeless guy, but he's cool.
Yeah.
And now they're adding like HIV positive care. It's funny that the same team can then switch and be like, all right, cut the shit. We're all adults now. Skid Row song. It fucking sucks here.
Yeah.
You got to use terrazzo on the bathroom floors of these whores uptown. Like, I was like, whoa, what happened to all the Sesame Street positivity?
Yeah, the one thing that I love about the musical movie and stage play, probably more so the stage play, but the movie does this too, is it almost sets up with two opening songs. So you have like it's something that is a device that isn't used as often in film anymore, where they say, yo, this is what this entire story is about. Because that's what the doo-wop girls basically do,
I
is
forgot.
they tell you what the story is
Skid
about.
Row is not the first song.
No,
the
it's
first
not.
song
It's
is
Little Shop.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, it was like, and here's a movie, Little Shop, Little Shop of Horrors, and then it goes down, and then it like fades up, and then Skid Row comes on. I'm like, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Cosmos shot turns into an oil slick on
Yep.
top of a puddle. I love
Yeah.
that.
It's such a cool way to start.
Dude, as a kid, I
production.
remember the exact moment I was like hooked on the story was and by the way, we should say Howard Ashman, Alan Menken of Alan
great
Menken of
music.
many
Yeah.
Disney movies fame.
Writer, composer.
Poor. All my life,
I've
I've
always
when
been
it switched
poor.
to that, I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah,
Let's-
Oh, what's this?
because it is a very upbeat down on Skid poor.
yeah, it's
All my life 5, and it was like, oh wait,
there's going to be tonal variation in
Yeah.
this, which is what I like.
And then the song
yeah.
even slows down more than that. Like and then it ramps back up like right at the end. But it slows
Yeah.
down when Seymour and Audrey are singing.
Yes.
Almost to a ballad.
Yeah, exactly. When they're like
Which
around the
is-
corner from each other.
Yeah.
It's well-crafted songs.
It's a really
Songmanship.
well-crafted
And
song.
given that it's a stage and that these people spent season after season, or Frank Oz directed a lot of Sesame Street episodes, it is cool to see how his mind handles stage choreography for film. Like there was the shot at the end of Somewhere That's Green. I did have to look up how they did it, but I noticed it organically this time. She had to finish singing Somewhere That's Green. They had to nail a crane shot that pulls out of her apartment window, and then it goes up to Ronette, Crystal, and Chiffon on the roof, and they begin Some Fun Now.
Yeah.
And
There was
it's
a
a
handoff?
oneer. It's a
There's a
oneer.
handoff,
And then
yeah.
looking it up online, I found out it's even more impressive than I thought because no crane existed at that time that did that long of a shot.
Yep.
So one crane pulled the camera back, and then the next crane picked the camera up and kept going.
Yeah,
That's so
imagine
It's
basically.
like they didn't have to try that hard, and they did.
Basically, imagine like forklifts
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
air.
Yeah.
That's lifting each other and like trying to nail that gimbal. That's a lot of impressive craftsmanship.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I do like about the movie, and there are other movies like this, but like the stage play can live on. You can do it. You can always set it. It's set in the 50s.
Right.
So when you go watch like live productions, you can easily be dropped back in it. But the movie, why I think it's so effective is even though it's an 80s movie and it feels like an 80s movie, it's also set in the 50s. And I don't think you could make that movie. I don't think you could remake Little Shop and it works as well because I think they would try to do too much with it.
I agree with you entirely.
Yeah, they would try to do too much with it. They would try to make it too. It
Yeah.
would probably be CGI'd, and
Oh,
it would
for
probably
sure.
be, and
they
it
would-
would lose a little bit of that.
It would be
50s
music.
appeal.
It would feel like a music video because it
Yeah.
would be the visual strategies employed would be so loud and the filmmaking
Yeah.
would be so loud. This is so like shot like TV show, like you mentioned
Yeah.
with Sesame's. His impulse, Frank Oz's impulse, is to just approach things as a proscenium. So it's just here's the theater. We have the moving parts. I basically can go side to side with my camera up and down. And the name for that is Dollhouse Cinema. And it's
Yeah.
like
It is, yeah,
it's
for
it's
sure, like
in
that.
it's as if you're just taking a cut away of like a house. That's how they made some.
Yeah.
And it's like
Death of a Salesman used to almost always be
sometimes
staged
do
like
that. It's also
yeah.
very
Yeah.
popular in the '60s. It was like a
Cutaway set
French
design,
New
yeah.
Wave thing.
Right.
There's a lot of French Wave filmmakers who did that kind of stuff. And what it does is it really because it's a fairly flat plane. He does work with depth, and when you notice it when he works with
Right,
depth.
yeah.
Right, and it
You know?
works. It
It
works.
works because-
like Suddenly Seymour kind of has depth.
Yeah,
in it
does.
But like you kind of need it there because it's the explosion of their relationship finally.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
sometimes when they're just singing, like you were saying, like sometimes it's just the close up, close up, close up, close up, because this is just a love song. What's better to show? There's no big dance number. There's nothing to really immerse yourself into with the lensing. So you just
Yeah.
like pop an 85 on and just like shoot it, and it's just like, oh, okay, so this is just a film. And then there's musical sequences that are shot in wide, and the choreography and the staging is doing all your work for you.
Yeah.
That is a great seamless way to do a musical that's not trying to say like, look at me, I'm the filmmaker.
Right.
Now we're very beholden to like what's the visual like shtick of this thing.
Which would I think hurt this
I agree.
because the simplicity of the time is set in actually works to his benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the movie, I think with basically 99% of the movie being shot in that way, it makes what the original ending was supposed to be even more effective because
Right.
it's such a departure from the rest of the film. Like he's busting through the screen and
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
You
really-
can kind of tell it's a set a little bit the whole movie.
Yeah.
So if then it cut to a puppet wrecking models, I would be like, that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
where this should escalate because it's
Yeah.
a set. Now let's like tear it down.
Let's tear
Yeah.
it down. Yeah, and it just, man, it makes me so sad that they just basically ripped that away from themselves.
Yeah.
Because we as audiences are stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
I know Brazil and Army of Darkness too. Do you know Army of Darkness?
No.
Slept too long.
Yeah. There were 2 different endings where the universe completely ended in some way.
Yeah.
And no one would accept it, so they had to just like pull it back
Pull
into
it back.
fine. Then he kills all the evil people at the end. Fine, fuck you guys.
It's so funny. Dodgeball makes fun of that. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have seen Dodgeball.
Right.
I always thought that was a true story. How they ended, like they actually did shoot it and it tested bad.
Yeah.
But it's just like they just truly made fun of it. But yeah, it's so weird how we as audiences don't like to see what we perceive as unhappy endings.
Or at least the majority. Yeah, unless you're going to.
For something that's supposed to be light.
I doubt
guess.
they were showing Requiem for a Dream and people were like, can't you salvage it? At the
Right,
end? Like,
right. Maybe.
I have a question for you guys because I want to talk a little bit about Audrey 2, which is, was there a performance in the 80s that was like this at all? Did this come out of nowhere for a lot of audience?
Well, Audrey 2 is from the stage play and the movie.
But most moviegoers hadn't seen or heard of Little
Right,
Shop.
but the actual plant is based off of like a Four Tops like type performance.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that was something which is a very 50s thing.
Yeah. But
the
there's this
Temptations and all that
crass
shit.
irreverence that he has. And this
It was
kind of,
it was the first Oscar-nominated song to have like the word titty and shit in it. and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
because
mean,
I don't think there was. I was born in '85, so like I wasn't privy to anything until like the mid '90s
90s,
anyway.
right.
But like when I look back and I look at the movies that I like have stayed popular, like I have this sleeper theory that I don't think Aladdin's genie would be what Aladdin's genie is without a character like the
you mean
way-
because his character is so out of place,
out of place and it's fine
and it works.
bombastic.
Right.
It works.
Yeah.
You have to assume that he travels through time to make
Right.
it work in your head. You're
There's
like,
this moment where
oh, he knows about cars. Okay.
Yeah, there's this moment, and it's totally fine. I mean, it's at the end, so by this point, it's like hook, line, and sinker. But there's like when he gets the pay phone in the florist,
Yeah.
and he like gets money and puts it in
Audrey
and
too, you
dials
mean, yeah.
Audrey to kill her and stuff. He checks,
It's so funny.
the coin return,
Yeah.
and that's such a joke for people who only have ever used payphones.
Right.
Which
No
is that
one
alien
ever-
plant understands like
Oh,
a
that's
nuanced
true.
joke,
But also-
about checking to see if someone left their quarter in there.
People under 30 watching that today don't get that joke.
Yeah,
which
but
I
everybody
love.
everybody
Everyone
over 30 would.
Yeah, everyone over 30.
Or,
Yeah.
30 or over, yeah.
But yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like that's a hilarious joke because it means it's one of those jokes that makes you take index of like, oh yeah, this is an alien plant I'm watching.
right.
Yeah, I was all taken up about the murder, you see,
Yeah.
but it was really an
And the
alien
fun
plant.
and the fun thing about just Little Shop in general, all of them, is everything that happens in this musical is told to you in the first 30 minutes.
Yes, so fast.
like when it reveals that he's an alien from outer space or whatever,
Yeah,
which
like,
is something
we
that's
knew
true in
that
the movie.
already. Yeah.
They say it like when the customer comes in and Seymour says what happened. Like it's clearly an alien story.
Yeah.
Like, but it doesn't click until the end. The beginning song when the doo-wop girls, they tell
Yeah.
you this is not a happy story. This is a bad. This is a horror
be
story.
bad.
Yeah.
But they're doing it like with
Yeah.
the doo-wop. So
It's
like,
such a really fun plot device to say, we're not trying to surprise you. We're just trying to tell you the story.
Yeah.
And I think, but the movie is full of surprises,
right.
which is weird.
That's that bombastic tone that
Yeah.
I think the play comes from the play, but it also I think is very well accomplished in this movie,
Yeah,
even
it
though
is.
it's not done in the traditional way that a play would, because it's done with all of the emphasis and money of Hollywood.
Yeah.
They made a production out of it using everything at their disposal except for really the theater. They brought the theater into the movie, is
Yeah.
what they
Right.
did.
And if the surprises feel more like, because not having seen the theatrical production, to me, the reason the movie was so surprising is you're like, wait, we're going to have a song about the dentist being
Yeah.
a sadist? I didn't. It's like that it meanders wherever the fuck it wants and doesn't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't follow like a clean structure, and yet the structure is projected, and you're like, this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. It's
Yeah.
all fine. Like, everyone relax.
Everybody relax.
Yeah,
Listen to the songs. But because of that, they have the freedom to be like, so here's a song about a side character in their life. Like, you didn't know
Yeah.
we were going to go home with
Right.
them or whatever. I love that.
It's insane to me that in a movie that more or less is, I mean, it's like an hour and 40 minutes runtime or 36,
Yes.
but
It's
like
crazy.
obviously almost 10 minutes or 8 minutes of that is credits. So for like the real quick, for how quick it is, it's insane to me that there's like 3 minutes of Bill Murray even exists. The fact that
John
we like
Candy.
John Candy
gets a little time
gets
to riff.
way more time than is necessary for that plot beat to happen.
Yeah.
Even the dentist, like you're saying, gets like multiple songs. It has multiple openings.
Yeah.
It explains things multiple times throughout
that
the
aren't
movie.
even that complicated. Yeah.
It's because the plot is super simple.
Yeah.
Plant falls to earth, needs blood. Guy makes deal with plant, starts killing people. The end.
regrets it.
Yeah.
Or
Regrets it.
doesn't, depending on the
Depending
ending.
on the ending.
Yeah, he regrets it at the end.
Yeah.
I think one reason too the plan really works, and the movie does a really good job in showing this, is that every character is a very stereotypical model of what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, an archetype.
Mr. Mushnick is the greedy Jewish floral shop.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
We're getting into it.
The doo-wop girls are street urchins.
And then he's like, better yourselves. And you're like,
Right.
dude, you're working at a failing flower shop
Exactly.
on Skid Row. Let's not judge
You-
Let's not
everyone.
judge
I mean, you
everybody.
get that from Skid Row because when he gets in the alley and he's like, when Rick Moranis is in the alley and he looks
Yeah.
around and he sees a bunch of homeless people like grabbing at the
Oh,
gate
they're
like
creepy
zombies.
I love
Yeah.
You're
homeless
like,
people
okay,
are
I see what
zombies.
this is. This is
Yeah.
a leitmotif of homeless people
And
are
Audrey's
also
like-
just bullshit.
Audrey, why are you letting your boyfriend abuse you? I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
too dumb to get
I'm
out of the situation.
a dumb blonde girl.
Yeah.
Seymour. I'm a dork loser. Like,
Yeah.
everything
Orphan.
about... orphan. Everything
Remember
about
all
these
the
characters are such archetypes.
Yeah.
And done in a really well way. I don't think they're one note,
Yeah.
but I think they are really well done. Even a dentist. Like, what do we associate dentistry with? Pain.
Yeah.
and
money.
fear.
Yeah.
And yeah.
God,
yeah.
when he takes off his motorcycle jacket to
the funniest
be
part
a
of the
dentist,
movie.
so good.
Because what we don't expect is the motorcycle and leather jacket type guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So but then when it connects, you go,
It
that
makes
does
t-
make
it makes
sense. A
perfect
sadist
sense.
would be a dentist.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
So the plant being such a departure, where it's like, wait a minute, this isn't an archetype at
No,
all.
because it's not an alien
nothing.
like, we have come for your research.
Right.
It's like, I'm very casual and bombastic. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I have
fuck
a
you, I'm an
beautiful-
alien.
I have a beautiful black male singing voice.
exactly.
Like, place me, motherfuckers.
Laughing just maniacally, just at like it reminds me of that Mars Attacks alien. Like when
Oh, yeah.
the plan is like hatched in the brain of the protagonist, they realize how evil they are. The antagonist is. It's hilarious to me that he's just like, yeah, like grow up. Like what does he say? He's like answer the phone or something like that. He says something. He's just like, didn't you know that I was this evil? Isn't it great? Like just like rubbing it in his face, and it's just so
Also super overconfident considering it can't move very well. That it's like, you can't stop me. Nothing
Yeah.
can stop me.
Nothing can stop
It's
me.
like,
Although-
well, we just had to electrocute you. It wasn't that hard.
Although
Right.
even that is
That's
a ruse.
another reason that the altered ending sucks, I think.
Yeah, because it shows. Oh, we could have just like put this motherfucker down like a garbage disposal.
Right. It didn't see.
Like-
It takes away the plan. You're like, I guess it was never that big a threat. It was the story of like a weak ass alien
That's
invasion. Right.
So yeah, that's right, because you don't get the part in the changed ending where he breaks the pot and he has legs, and that's a
Yeah.
ruse as well.
He breaks the pot and he has legs but can barely move. He moves like an inch at a time. And in the alter ending,
You see
he's
them climbing
way more
buildings
powerful.
and-
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's walking everywhere. He's knocking over buildings.
Yeah.
Right.
So you see that it is, which is why like stage plays drop the plant legs in the audience because it's like he can get all around you. You know what I'm saying? And then I love this part too, where everybody is singing out of the plant's mouth for the finale because everybody is eating, so the whole cast is inside the plant.
That's awesome.
So
I gotta see the show.
In the movie. Yeah, I really do enjoy the movie. I really do enjoy the movie.
It undermines that sentiment how many times you've had to say that.
Because it is the only thing I don't like. I hate this with movies in general, is when you pull the rug from under yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think it's amazing. This movie is the epitome of how 2 minutes of a movie can discredit almost an entire movie, which can make some people not like it.
Usually if it's the last 2 minutes too.
Yeah, if it's the last 2 minutes. Because this movie is so fun. Like I said, it is perfectly cast in my opinion. It is a musical that is perfectly cast because I'm thinking of other musicals.
Christopher Guest. It's like, why did that have to be such a powerhouse of a talent for that part? But I'm glad
that
you
little
got
part.
him.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't that well known at the time.
But knowing that his normal voice is like a pretty straightforward British man. Mm-hmm. Everything Christopher Guest does, I'm just like, what is that voice, man? That's amazing.
Yeah.
His weird, like, generic 50s guy voice is fucking awesome in this movie.
Was this before
Spinal Tap?
Spinal Tap? No. Was this before what's the Rick Moranis? Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good. I've got the computer, so I'll look it up.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't?
No,
it's
this
after.
It's after.
Yeah.
It's after Honey, I
was
Shrunk the Kids. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was 89. This movie was 86.
Yeah.
And Ghostbusters was 84, right?
Yeah.
And so, really, look, Rick Moranis was popular from SCTV and just a whole bunch of Spaceballs. When did Spaceballs come out?
You seen Strange Brew based on their SCTV? It's him and Dave Thomas.
Oh, yes. I thought you meant like
those. Yeah, the movie. They made a movie of that sketch.
Yeah.
It's good.
Spaceballs came out even after this.
Max von Sydow's in it?
Yeah. As like hockey mind control. Anyway.
Spaceballs.
So this movie was really we won't. But this movie was a vehicle for Rick Moranis.
Yeah.
Even though his movie career
and
only lasted for another 5 years by choice.
And this would not be considered like the crown jewel of his career even. This was like, you're right, this was in between two bigger movies for him, Ghostbusters and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
And Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And then Spaceball. He was big. Spaceballs was a pretty big deal. But
this is probably the smallest of all.
This made him a household name, I think.
This, you think?
Little Shop?
Yeah.
It made him a household name where other production companies was like, oh, we'll cast Rick Moranis.
I think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids probably got
Maybe
just in retrospect.
I think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with Rick Moranis works because it's Rick Moranis, not the other way around. Like that movie, everything about that movie is so believable that Rick Moranis would be that person.
Yeah.
Whereas
Zelensky.
if without like Ghostbusters and Little Shop, where he plays like the nerdy character so well that you're just like, all right, what is this movie?
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids works so well because Rick Moranis is in it from the jump.
I also didn't realize how much of Rick Moranis' career he spent doing what were for the time intense special effects scenes.
Yeah.
Like he probably spent a lot of his time on set, more than your average like Seth Rogen or whatever.
Yeah.
Getting strapped to helmets and
true.
shit and having to like act to a giant ant and then a plant. And in Little Shop, like Audrey, they wanted to speed up the footage. So in the end scenes where he acts with Audrey, they had to play a track of him performing the scene, and he had to move in slow motion and lip sync in slow motion. So it's like, I wonder if he quit acting because he was sick of how separated it is from acting.
Yeah.
Because I know it's
very technical. He was in a lot of technical shit.
I think the love of theater for almost every actor comes from the place of like, at least on stage, I get to like inhabit the character and then act for a length of time without being interrupted. Rick Moranis had to act with Slimer and giant ants and shit.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't that satisfying of a career. Or
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Ghost
suppose,
dogs.
but
No, that's
Well,
probably a good point.
but it's
He had
crazy
more
to me just
techno,
to imagine
technological-
like watching a movie but knowing that you did that scene in slow motion and you're like,
It's so
that's not
crazy.
real acting. This is so fake. Yeah.
I mean, it also is. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know this. I think that's probably a reason why he hasn't come back to acting. He was
That's
like, you
what
know
I'm
what?
wondering. Yeah.
That was a grind. The reason he left, according
Right.
to him, is because his wife. Like, didn't his wife pass away?
Oh, I didn't know.
His wife passed away, and he wanted
Single
to raise his
dad.
daughter. Yeah.
Oh.
But by the time she was grown, I think he was like, I have no desire to go back to that world anymore.
yeah, it's
Our feedback app is telling us test audiences do not like that story. Can you please alter the ending?
yeah.
right.
I just wanted
He
to,
got 4 wives.
I just wanted to be said though, like you do not blame the producers for that choice. Do not blame the director
For changing it?
for changing it. No, I mean because they're sinking a lot of money into this production, a huge amount of
Here
money.
comes the suit.
Look at the directors they were thinking about to direct this before. They were thinking about Scorsese.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me that's not
That's weird.
thoroughly like, okay, we're going with the dark ending.
Yeah.
You know, the other one is John Landis, which feels like a pretty good fit actually because
Yeah.
he's American Werewolf. He's already worked with a lot of like tech stuff, but he's also got a really dark kind of spot.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's pretty dark.
He's already grooming his son for evil. He's
Sure,
got a lot of
sure.
experience in the field.
This is said during
Well,
all the
He
Max.
killed 2 kids with a helicopter at this point already, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Imagine
I
being
think,
John Landis. Weird life. It
Weird
would just be a
life.
weird ride. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead,
Weird
Jackie.
life.
I think Warner Brothers in general wanted the ending that they got.
From the beginning, you think?
The front, no, they said, like it's been
Uh.
said, they didn't want them to die.
Okay.
And the director and I think the main producer of the film pushed for it. No, let's keep it original. And they won that fight.
And then it interviews their docile. It's a very
And then it
typical
went back.
thing.
Yeah. So I think I don't know who the producer was. I forgot who the producer was on this film, but he wanted to keep it like everybody dies. And Warner Brothers was like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And he won the fight, and in the end, Warner Brothers actually won the fight. But I agree with you, dude. I get it, because here's the thing. One, the movie has to come out.
Right.
And if the audiences hate it,
Who's it for?
who's it for, right? It's twofold for me. So I get it. I get it from a production standpoint, where it's like, we have to put this movie out, or else we just wasted all this money filming it. And I think it would be a travesty if this movie didn't exist,
Right.
because it did let it reach a much larger audience of people who hadn't seen the play.
Yeah.
Because I saw this movie first,
And like we keep
when I
saying,
was a
the
kid.
cast nails it.
The cast nails it.
It
It's
introduced
such
me
a-
to a lot of these actors.
Yeah,
so.
it would be a travesty if this movie did not exist. So if that's what it had to do to get made, so be it. But there is a part of me that wishes, you know, when you have the Frank Oz's and the people who had this big vision, it was like, all right, we're going to take this risk and do this in a way that we want to do it exactly. It does sadden me that somebody was like, you know what, I know test audiences didn't like it, but trust me, they will.
And that happens
you
very
know.
rarely. Like, I feel like when No Country for Old Men was in theaters, a lot of people walking out were genuinely like, what the fuck was the end?
Yeah.
What? I hated that. The ending was so fucked up.
Right.
And then within 6 months, everyone was like, never mind, I get it now.
I get it
They
now.
were challenging us to think about nihilism and these nuanced topics. I get it. It's the best picture of the year. And it's like, that's why the Coens are my favorite, is the confidence to be like, no, the vision's correct. And they're like, but the audiences don't like it. We know. That's
We know.
intentional that they
Yeah.
don't like it.
They can be
Yeah.
unsatisfied
Fuck you.
for a little
Trust
bit.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust it, it's like if Inception was made in 1986, we would have known whether the
That
top fell or
would
not.
be amazing.
Right? Because the
Yeah.
audiences would have hated that.
Yeah.
But you know, I can't imagine somebody going to Christopher Nolan and saying, "We think the audience will hate this," and he would just say, So fucking what? Like, I still won't tell you whether it's a dream or not.
And remember, the auteur director has not really taken hold of Hollywood at this point yet.
Right.
I mean, we were 77 was the first blockbuster, and like
Kubrick, when is he?
It's about to
starting
happen.
to abuse people.
Like the repetition, because it's happened before in the 80s with a lot of movies, with like the Spielbergs and Lucas and stuff, but it's going to really take hold because now multiple people, it's not just Star Wars. It's like you have multiple options. We're about to get Close Encounters. We're about to get a lot of just like
created the blockbuster.
Everyone just loves it when people take chances that studios are now going to be asking for not studio films like this, but things like, just taking risks on actual people. And so this is kind of one of 86 is like one of those years where it's in that nebulous space that like there's a lot of choices behind the camera and in the office that are being made that no one is sure of where it's going yet.
This movie got fucked with a lot by the studio, I get the impression, because like there was a trivia thing where it said someone was friends with Rodney Dangerfield. To this day, no one knows who did it, but like to the point where they said he could be the guy who comes and tries to buy the Audrey 2 to propagate it. And they got a draft of the script one day, and it was just listed as Rodney Dangerfield. And Frank Oz had to be like, who said you could cast Rodney? It's Jim Belushi. Like, we already got him. Like, the studio was, like, trying to sneak in and change shit constantly. And I was just surprised how much they reshot. They redid the entire dentist office sequence.
Yeah.
Without bloodstains on the walls, because there were originally bloodstains on the walls. So it's also amazing to me that Bill Murray, who legendarily is like difficult to work with or get to do the same thing twice, they had to get him to come back and redo his whole improv bit again without bloodstains, without any blood effects. Yeah.
That's so insane. Do you guys know, I don't know this off the top of my head, I'm sure there has been, but the scope of stage productions turned into stage musicals. Oh, well, I guess not really. Stage productions turned into movies.
Well,
I know, like West
we were
Side
talking
Story.
about Madonna's.
What do you mean by
Ruined
scope?
Evita,
Just
in my
like how
opinion.
Like
often
how often had it happened?
I mean, Jesus
Oh,
Christ,
before this
Superstar.
time?
Yeah.
Superstar was in the early 80s, so that had happened.
In the
Okay.
60s, there was a lot.
There was a lot.
Because there was a lot of musicals.
Speaking of choreography as a lost art
Godspell and
form,
stuff.
Oliver. Have you seen Oliver, the movie version of the Oliver Twist,
Twist
musical? Yeah.
No, Oliver was my first play I ever did.
The movie version, you'll still like the play better, but
I don't remember the play at all.
the movie version does something that the musical literally couldn't do. And I do think if you're going to change mediums, a fun trick is to be like, you couldn't have physically done this as a play. So that's why it can be a movie. I forget her name, but she's legendary Broadway choreographer. There are like wide angle shots in the movie version Oliver with like 500 dancers in frame.
Right.
It's awesome. The choreography is like over the top. Too much effort was spent on the choreography in Oliver.
But yeah, that's an interesting question. I think
test audiences made them cut the villain song. Sorry.
Crazy.
Speaking of.
because I would argue that definitely up to like this point in history, like 86, I would argue that almost all of
it was
musicals
really well done.
were,
And now that I'm like
but
60s era, so
yeah,
many.
they were just. Where do we find musicals? Well, you just go to stage,
right?
And then I start thinking about like more recent history, and I think of things like Moulin Rouge or Chicago, even, where it's like it was more kind of designed at the same time.
Right.
So that it became a new thing. We had a huge '90s thing because there was whole like Baz Luhrmann craze and stuff like that, and there was musical versions of Romeo and Juliet where it like felt like it was kind of stagey, but it was just written for film. So it was all over the place. But then I am also thinking about like Labyrinth existed.
Yeah.
The 80s, once again, really strange time. No one knows where things are coming from.
Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Sure
Like
is
I
weird.
think you're right to ask that question, or it's an interesting question to me because especially given the time this was made, it's like it can come out of anywhere. People just have no fucking clue what's going to win out.
But you're
'cause
right.
it's
I
just
forgot. Like
tumultuous.
in the 30s, every movie was a music. That was like when Gene Kelly and Shirley Temple. Like every movie was a staged musical that they just shot. Broadway Melody, 42nd Street,
Yeah.
Footlights, Top Hat,
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz. Oh, they're right. That counts. Google's right. Yeah. Yankee Doodle Dandy. Al Jolson's The Jazz Singer, considered the first film musical. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
An American in Paris, Singing in the Rain. Yeah.
People don't
That-
even remember
it's
in the
weird.
60s, like, it's something like 70% of movies were like spy movies or musicals.
It is
Yeah.
weird
It
to
was, like,
remember
crazy.
that musical used to be a dominant film genre.
Yeah, it was like the
Yeah.
dominant genre.
So I guess in a way, this movie is almost like toward the end of the era.
Kind of. I think
where-
the 70s killed the musical.
I think
in a
animated
lot more
musicals
effort.
killed filmed music, or like if
Yeah.
you count Disney movies, isn't
Yeah, that's very true. It's
really
very
the-
soon after.
carried on?
Mermaid
Yeah.
was what, 89 or something around that time.
right?
So yeah, that's very true.
Sound of Music 65.
Yeah.
West
You-
Side Story 61.
You can actually track like when people have equity in the economy
Uh-huh.
of like, do they go to movies that like usually inspire hope, like more comedies, more musicals, or is it like slasher movies and stuff
Right.
like that? You can kind of see where you are, so like economically and socially. Like the 70s, that's why there was a lot of slasher movies. There wasn't a lot of like song and dance numbers. you
Yeah,
know?
people was like, we ain't in the movie this shit.
Paint.
we hate everything.
We hate everything, man. Damn.
Burn it down.
Wow.
Burn it down.
It's crazy how many musicals I forgot that there really are. Yeah.
Yeah.
How to
Yeah.
Succeed in Business. I love A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. That one's great.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh,
I've seen
Zero
that
Mostel.
show.
Yeah,
it's
I've never
great.
seen that movie actually.
Yeah.
Zero Mostel got blacklisted. The guy from the producers, he's great in it.
Yeah,
That's
the
good.
Producer's
And,
another good example.
And Paint Your Wagon, which I only know from The Simpsons making fun of it.
Yeah.
That's my for a
Isn't
clip
Clint Eastwood
episode.
in that?
Clint Eastwood and
Yeah,
the
that's
guy
right.
who's always a drunken monster. What's his name? And they're fucking singing cheerful musical numbers together.
That is such a fucking. We need to watch that movie.
Yeah.
Paint My Wagon.
That's
What
funny.
a blast from the past.
No, we're not going to cover Paint Your Wagon. And I think we're going to wrap up Little Shop. Final
Let's wrap up
thoughts, group?
Little Shop. Yeah, I mean, dude, I'll kick us off.
Please.
Yeah, please.
Go see it. If you've never seen it, see it. Watch it. Find a way to watch it. It is definitely worth it. I think that if you have never seen a stage play, you'll absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to make that a point. Like, you will absolutely love it. Well, maybe not absolutely love it, but you will appreciate it for the film that it was, I should say, and you will love it in that way. And I think it's a fun movie. I actually love that they are different, because if you do eventually watch the stage play, it's a really fun, like, all right, let's put them on top of each other and see how they're different and see how they're the same, which is something that is not common. When it is common, but it's done in a way where they both honor the same feel. You know, like the animated movie of Aladdin and the live action movie of Aladdin, for instance. Yeah, there's differences, but they also don't honor the same feel.
I agree.
In my opinion. Whereas the stage play and the movie A Little Shop, they honor the same feel.
They're playing in the same.
Yeah.
Like,
So
stadium.
the
Yeah.
differences are even more like noticeable.
Yeah.
Because you're like, huh,
Yeah.
It
they
begs
don't
the-
have this song in here.
But
It
the
begs
same-
the comparison because it's like, but you're so close.
But the same
Right.
group or a different group was trying to do the same thing. And this is
Exactly.
how they ended up. Yeah.
Exactly. And then when you learn all the behind the scenes shit of it, it
Yeah.
makes watching a movie that much more interesting. And the cast is great. It is even it being different than the play, it is still like my top 3 movie musicals of all time to watch
Yeah.
that I can talk about for hours. Yeah.
I haven't seen the original stage production, and now I almost don't want to, only because you just made me realize every time I have seen both and compared them, even when it was like a middling stage production, the movie's been very disappointing. Like, I was going to implore people, don't see the movie Evita. See it on stage. Don't see the Jesus Christ Superstar movie. It sucks.
Yeah.
See it on stage. And I know it just makes me wonder if I saw a good production of Little Shop on stage, if I'd be like, I'm over the movie now.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be. I think you start to appreciate them both for for different reasons, right?
I think knowing
the Jesus Christ
knowing
Superstar
you,
movie
you'd
is
be
weak.
fine because you, just like I did, you looked into the technological achievements of the movie. You'll enjoy different aspects of Little
Yeah.
Shop at the stage.
Well, that's actually my final thought is I encourage you to find behind the scenes photos and stories about them puppeteering Final Form Audrey 2.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's inspiring in the way they're like learning about Jackie Chan or Keanu
Such-
Reeves' process, like the sheer difficulty that went into it.
It's not easy.
I want to be buried in the Audrey 2
They-
puppet. Like if I ever get a lot of
Such
money,
good-
the first thing I will splurge on is track down the Audrey 2 puppet wherever it exists in the world and buy it.
I just love anytime craftsmen, they go way above and beyond
Yeah.
doing things that matters only to them. Like, for example, in this movie, the lips of Audrey
Are
2
moist?
but they're also molded from Ellen Green's lips.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very.
Oh.
Those little things are very fun.
Those little things.
But the inside of its mouth is also moist, which means they had to like every shot.
Oh, just spray it
wet
down.
yeah,
Wet
it's
it
such a
up.
pain.
all the tendrils, like, dialing perfectly.
They said it took 3 hours every night to patch it up for the
Yeah.
next day's shoot. Yeah.
It's just really an achievement in that regard, just because we don't do that anymore. We just solve it
No.
with CG. We have our Lion Kings, like
Yeah.
that's what we do with
That's
it.
what we do.
wouldn't-
One thing too, before we get into the final thought, is that I think one reason Audrey 2 is such a fun character. Like Feed Me, Skid Row, and Suddenly Seymour are my 3 favorite songs of the production. Feed Me is so great. Feed Me.
Sorry,
No, you're good.
went down the wrong tube.
No, you're all good.
All right, sorry.
You're all good, man. Feed Me is so great.
Yeah.
They're a little different between the two, but both of them are so good. And I think one other reason, too, that if you do get a chance to see it, that makes Audrey 2 way more fun to see live, is because you don't get too many characters who are such a big part of the story and play that you don't see.
Yeah,
Like, you only hear his voice when you watch it live.
Yeah.
Whereas a movie, that's not something that's abnormal.
Right.
That's
Brave
something
little
very
toaster.
normal. Yeah.
say it. Yeah, and they
So-
have to figure out how to make that interesting, how to make it work.
How to make it work.
Yeah.
So to see it work live is also very fun too. Where in the movie, I do think they had to give him more. He has more in the movie because
Yeah.
you have to.
Yeah.
He has to have more in
But
the
I
movie.
do feel like if I saw a production, now the movie unfortunately has set my standards. If they weren't like Jim Henson level, because if you've seen behind the scenes Sesame Street stuff for like that Elmo movie that came out, these puppeteers are like dedicated to fucking puppeteering. And if I saw someone who couldn't do the Audrey puppet on
Yeah.
stage, I feel like there's a lot of space to fuck up with the
There
puppet.
is. I mean, the first production I did, the Audrey 2s were not great. They were huge. Like
Yeah.
they usually give them like 3 or 4 because you have to have the
Stages
first
of
one,
it, yeah.
then you have to have the middle one, then you have the one that's Act 2, and then you have to have the last one, Final Form Audrey 2, which is just basically takes up the entire flower shop.
And in the movie, they invented for the first time, never before done in filmed puppeteering, one that grows as you watch it.
Oh, that's so
when
cool.
when he's feeding it the blood for the first time,
It
it goes
actually-
from phase 3 to phase
Yeah.
4 in real time. They had to like put an inflatable thing inside
That's
it.
really
It's
cool.
fucking awesome.
That's so
Yep.
cool.
Yep. Good work. That is some hard to do shit.
Yeah.
I don't think there's even craftsmen, like there's not the same number of craftsmen who can do that thing on the planet still
anymore.
you know?
Yes, poor Stan Winston died. Yeah, but if I saw a stage production where the puppeteering was good, I think I'd be even more magical because it's happening really right in front of you.
Well, if you do go see it, it probably will be professional because I even remember this from high school. To get our crappy college-made like puppets was $10,000
Holy shit.
to rent them for
Oh, okay.
a
So you guys
production.
didn't build them.
No.
Okay.
That would be impossible to build. Not impossible, but for a high school
But
production, it would be impossible
It's
to
not
build.
my job. I'm here to
Yeah.
act or direct or whatever.
Yeah. And our crew that would have been way worse. But so they're expensive to get
Yeah.
because they're so big. So
Yeah.
if you go see Little Shop, it has to be a very expensive.
Did you see that elementary school production of Alien that just went viral?
No.
Check it out.
I want to. I'll see it.
The set,
That's fucking great.
like all the parents got together and made all the props and costumes
That
out of
is
recycled
great.
materials, including like at the end a fucking 11-year-old girl in a mech suit fights the alien and hurls it off stage.
so
It's
great.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
love it.
I need
Can't wait to see it.
that.
All
Let's
right.
watch that after this.
So great puppeteering, solid cast, little shot,
Little shop.
little shot.
Before we go,
Yeah.
Is there any social media accounts that you run that maybe our audience might like?
Plug your shows.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere at Jacquis Neal, JACQUISNEAL, all social media. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, Culture Kings is the show that I do on the iHeart Radio Network. You can catch that out. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but
think
there may
Tuesday.
be. Oh, Tuesday? All right, cool. Well, I have something else. Another podcast coming down the pipeline. That's my own venture.
Oh.
So be on the lookout for that. I can't talk too much about it, but be on the lookout for that.
Awesome.
It'll be pretty dope to check out.
Yeah,
Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks.
The end.
That's how you end it.